we share that the practice of meditation is considered to be the main practice on the spiritual path in the yogic tradition. And in addition to being a practice, it's also a main indicator of our spiritual maturity. So our ability to meditate is based on what we call the level of purity in the mind. And when the yogis talk about purity, they mean that the mind becomes a clear or appropriate instrument to give us knowledge. So when you say purity, it means that the mind is perceiving reality correctly. There is right views, right ideas, right understanding about the world and about ourselves. So when we say the mind is pure, the mind is filled with right perceptions or right thinking. There is no delusion or wrong views in the mind. And when the mind grows with this type of a right understanding about the nature of objects, the nature of the world, the nature of oneself, then meditation is a natural state. But as long as there is wrong views in the mind about others and wrong views about ourselves, the mind will not be capable of meditation. And if the mind is not capable of meditation, the mind is incapable of realizing real lasting happiness. The mind is destined to be a source of affliction, a source of agitation, if meditation is not possible for the mind. So the yogis are teaching that for meditation to become a possibility for us, the mind needs to be purified, and the mind is purified by cultivation of right ideas, right views, right thoughts. And one of the main ways that Swami Sivananda teaches to bring upon this purification is through cultivation of virtues. Cultivation of virtues is the main means for the mind to start perceiving reality in a more accurate manner, and the mind becoming free from delusion. Because the yogis are teaching all the different vices like anger and jealousy and fear and depression are actually different forms of delusion. They're different forms of wrong thinking. We have a wrong view about ourselves, and because of that, we become agitated in all these different ways. So the yogis are teaching that the cultivation of virtue, like courage or kindness or compassion, which are actually different attributes of our true nature. Unconditional love, fearlessness, these are different ways to describe our true nature. So as we are committed to cultivate courage and overcome fear, as we are committed to cultivate generosity and remove selfishness, basically we are learning to shift our mind out of the wrong thinking, out of the delusion. The commitment to courage is the commitment to get out of the delusion of fear, or the commitment to generosity is a commitment to get out of the delusion of stinginess and selfishness, because it's a delusional state. So Swami Sivananda teaches different methods of how to develop these virtues. How basically the development of the virtues is really the unfoldment of these virtues, because that's our true nature, but we need to break free from the delusion. So Swami Sivananda gives different methods of how to do it, primarily different practices of meditation. And last time we shared about a very simple technique where we take the virtue, and for example we gave the example of the virtue of the month of March. You remember which virtue was that?
Courage.
Courage. Very good. So you paid attention. That's good. So, and we mentioned that actually you can meditate on any virtue, but Swami Sivananda recommends courage for March. And we gave the example of a meditation where all that we do is we inhale Om courage and we exhale Om courage. Very simple technique, just to think about the virtue and to try to feel that we are in the possession of this virtue. So that is one simple method that Swami Sivananda teaches, and this morning we wanted to share a few more words of Swami Sivananda on this subject from the book Sivananda Daily Reading. It's a wonderful book which summarizes all the different teachings of Swami Sivananda and puts it in a format of a daily reading. So 1 page a day. So every day you can just read 1 page, and like this over the year you're really covering all the different subjects about yoga and the spiritual path. So this is specifically about this practice of meditation on virtue, and it comes from 3rd of February in this book. So Swamiji writes, examine your character, pick up the defects you find in it, and find their opposites. So Swamiji begins by the first step in this process is to have a certain degree of self-analysis, to think about our character, our personality, and recognize what are the shortcomings in our personality. What are the things we know that are self-sabotaging, things that we know that are holding us back from being able to know God, the self, or being happy. So to recognize, we all know it doesn't take much to acknowledge our defects. And if you're not sure what your defects, ask your friends, they will tell you. Ask your wife, your husband, they will, I'm sure they already tell you, but if you're not sure, they will happily point it out to you. So pick up the defects and then their opposites. Let us say that you suffer from irritability. Let us say, only. Swamiji is being very sweet, but definitely you suffer from irritability. And the opposite of irritability is patience. Try to develop this virtue by meditating on the abstract virtue of patience. Now, why we are joking about this? Because we should be clear that as long as there is spiritual ignorance, as long as there is duality, irritability definitely will be there. All these different vices, we can reduce them to a certain degree by the cultivation of sattva guna, by the purification of the mind, but definitely they are still there to one level or the other as long as there is duality. So it's for sure that we all are struggling with vices. And this practice of cultivation of virtue, really, it's not so much about the virtue, it is taking us back towards the self. What we are really doing is we are working on these obstacles for knowing who we are. So as long as we do not know who we are struggling with these vices. So Swamiji says, try to develop this virtue by meditating on the virtue of patience. Regularly, every morning, at what time? 4 a.m. Very good. At 4 a.m., sit down in the lotus posture, or any posture that is good for meditation, for half an hour. Think of patience, think of its value, think of its practice under provocation. So here Swami Sivananda is giving different points of how to meditate on the virtue. First, Swamiji says, think of patience. So here, this can be done in different ways. Either, just like we mentioned before, just inhale on patience, exhale on patience. That's one method. Another method is more what we call an analytical meditation or contemplation, where you're not just repeating patience, but you are thinking only thoughts that are related to patience. So you are keeping the mind to contemplate, what does patience mean, how does it manifest, how do we practice it. So you are keeping the mind within the frame of only thinking about patience. So the idea of patience or the virtue will become very clear in the mind. So there will be a lot of understanding as we practice regularly. Patience, how it manifests and how we fail on it will become very evident to us. And then Swamiji says, think of its values. So meaning we think about the benefits of being patient or benefit of being courageous. This is very beneficial because at the moment, for example, when we are assailed by fear, when fear is manifesting in our mind, there is a tendency to go with the fear, meaning to allow the fear to take over. Because we don't necessarily think that it's such of a big deal. It's not so pleasant to face the fear. It takes a lot of energy. It's uncomfortable. So it's more comfortable just to remain in the fear. But if we daily contemplate about the benefits of courage and the benefits of becoming fearless, then when the fear will come, we will be extra motivated not to let it persist. Because it will be very evident in our mind that this is actually a very detrimental thing, that it's actually very harming for us. It's limiting us. It's taking away our happiness. But in the beginning, how beneficial courage is not so strong in the mind. And that allows the vices to remain much more, to persist, basically. So daily meditation on the benefits of courage will give us the extra strength that we need to face fear when it comes. Because we do need that extra energy, that extra motivation. It's not going to be easy to change. It's very easy to remain the same. The transformation is like going uphill. We're going against past tendencies that are pushing us down. So to go uphill, you need energy. You need motivation. Thinking about the benefits will give us that motivation. And then think of its practice under provocation. So meaning this is a practice where we are contemplating and either in imaginary or we can remember a past scenario where we were failing, for example, in patience. We think about situations where we are usually irritable. We know those situations. So we think about those situations, and now we try to reenact those situations in our mind, but now seeing how we respond to the situation, but now with patience. And envision how we feel so much better now that we're able, the same situation, but respond to it in patience. So basically, a deep reprogramming of the subconscious mind and how we deal with these regular situations. But now we envision ourselves responding to it in a new way. Because, as we know, we are a creature of patterns. And it's not by mistake that we respond to situations again and again in the same way. Like I'm sure a lot of you are maybe familiar with this movie, The Groundhog Day. It's a very famous movie with Bill Murray of that person who wakes up and has the same day over and over again. And it's a beautiful teaching that we all are living in this type of a Groundhog Day. Same, not just at the ashram. The ashram, yes, Jaganesha, morning and evening. Not much change there. But for all of us, meaning we are living within the patterns that are there within our subconscious mind. Same situations over and over. And it's not by chance that the same situations come, because it gives us an opportunity to respond in a more skillful way. What the movie is teaching and what the yogis are teaching, that life is about lessons. And if we don't get the lesson, we will have to get that lesson again and again until we learn to respond in a more skillful manner. So when we do these meditations, it's about learning to respond to that same situation in a more skillful way. So, and then Swamiji says, the last point here in this practice, think of yourself as perfectly patient, a model of patience. So another type of element in this meditation is that we should feel that we are in possession of the virtue, that we are an embodiment of the virtue. Not sometime in the future, but here and now, we are the total embodiment of the virtue. Courage, patience, kindness, any virtue. So we think about the virtue, we think about the benefits of the virtue, we can visualize how we respond to it in a challenging situation, and then we feel that we are an embodiment of this virtue. Every cell of our being is the embodiment of this virtue. That deep into the subconscious mind, there's been a transformation, and now this virtue is who we are. All the delusions of the vice have been uprooted. The anger, the fear, the jealousy, all has been cleansed out. And then we end this type of a practice, end the meditation with a vow that, and this is what we repeat, this resolve, this patience, which is my true self. So the patience or the virtue is who we truly are, not the vice. I will feel and show today and every day. So we take this type of resolution where we remind ourselves that that is the truth, even though sometimes it may not feel like that, but it doesn't feel like that only because of the illusions in our mind. But to remind ourselves that that is the truth, and this is what we will manifest from this moment onwards. That is the resolution in the end of the practice. And then Swamiji says, for a few days there may be no perceptible change. Okay, so, meaning irritability will definitely still be there. Few days can be few days. Few is not said exactly how much few, but but why this is very important to remember, because we should not get discouraged if there is not a quick, immediate transformation. There is nothing really quick on the spiritual path. There is nothing quick in anything that is really valuable. Something that is really valuable takes some time. But this is the path. This is the yogic science, meaning this is successful 100%, but we need to apply the practice, and it can take time. How much time depends on how deep the issues are. It takes time. But the transformation is guaranteed and it's assured. All the great masters are telling this because of their own direct experience. It works. But we need to be committed and we need to practice, and the transformation will take place. So Swamiji says, but go on practicing. You will see that soon thoughts of patience will arise simultaneously with the irritable impulse, and the irritation will be checked. So gradually the new tendencies will gain more and more strength. Go on practicing. The irritable impulses will grow more and more feeble until you find that irritability has disappeared and patience has become your normal attitude towards annoyance. So gradually this wrong views will be removed as we continue to practice, and as it becomes more and more evident to us that patience is actually our true nature. As that becomes more clear, the irritability will be weaker and weaker until it will be uprooted. In this manner, you may develop various other virtues, such as sympathy, self-restraint, humility, benevolence, nobility, and generosity. So all the different types of virtues can be developed in the same following the same technique. Concentration of the mind after its purification, meaning after we develop the virtues and the mind has been cleared out from all these delusions, then it will be very easy for the mind to move within, because the mind will be free from all the drama. So the mind will be naturally moving inwards. This will give real happiness and knowledge. You are born for this purpose only. Dive deep, the divine flame, the light of lights is burning there. Merge within. So as we systematically develop the virtues, the mind will become more and more clear, and deep meditation will be the result. And deep meditation leads to infinite, unconditional happiness. So quite worthwhile pursuing. But there's a very practical method of doing it. We just need to continue practicing, to apply these teachings. Om Tat Sat.